Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope it's not just me, but how did the this leap forward thing work for you? Yeah, I'm an early bird, so I feel like I don't know if is it just me? I felt like I had to get up. I feel like I got up a little earlier than I anticipated, or even though maybe I got up around the same time. It's just the clock moving the hour. I felt like I got up late, and and I and I didn't. So how's everybody doing? How was your weekend? Um, hope everybody just had an amazing weekend. I am super excited to talk to you today about this topic. Um, it's a topic that I've been wanting to address for a long time. It's a topic that's been on my heart as a leader, probably since I started, like really embracing the idea about being a leader. And it's the idea around fear and the aspects of fear is something that a lot of leaders deal with more so than you would anticipate. And so this is going to be a series. So this isn't just going to be today. I actually have probably three more that I'm going to be doing. So this is actually going to be a series. And I don't know about you, but I don't like to waste too much time. We are going to get right into the heart of this as well. But before I do that, I want to make sure that you check out our new podcast episode that's dropping tomorrow, and that is with Brian LeBrock. And his new book actually comes out tomorrow as well, The Retail Leaders Roadmap. So you got to make sure that you check out that episode, and also more importantly, pick up his book as well. The episode is amazing. It's it's fire. How can I say this? Those of you who remember, like, do you remember Chess King? Right? Who those of you who remember Chess King? Do you remember Oak Tree? So we talk a little bit about some of those old school retailers and how they influenced Brian and everything that he's actually been doing. So make sure that you check out that episode tomorrow as well. Um, I would be remiss without quickly talking about the sponsor of today, and the sponsor of today is the campus. If you are not on the campus, I don't know what you are waiting for. The campus is that place for retail leaders who have decided that they want to make a change in their journey. They decided that they want to make a change in their career, and they're looking for a community, a learning community that is action based, where they can move forward to their best next, whatever that is. They may feel like they have a gap in their leadership. And guess what? They can come onto the campus and actually get real solutions for their real problems. But we also have spaces for companies to actually come on, companies that can actually come on and actually have a better understanding of who they are and where they are and what it is that they actually want to do as well. I want to invite you to this Saturday. We have our mastermind session. It is our free mastermind session, and you come and we talk about a different topic. This Saturday we are going to be talking about leadership value and how to actually create that. So there is a link in the description, excuse me, in the comments. If you're on LinkedIn, I will make sure, if you're on YouTube, that I put something over there as well, so that you can make sure that you register for this. This is free. And we are going to be just chatting about leadership value. Come with your questions, bring your coffee, bring your donuts, whatever it is that you want to do. But we are going to be having a really good conversation about leadership value. That is this Saturday as well. So I'm really excited about that. Once again, if you haven't joined the campus, what are you waiting for? If you are ready to make that serious change in your career and where you want to go, the campus is the place to be. All right. So here we go. We are going to be talking today about fear, and this is once again a series that we are going to be discussing as well. Let me make sure I got in the comments. Anybody say hello? Good morning to everybody that's out there. I appreciate all of you watching. So this series, once again, is something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. I did a poll. I did a poll, and I I questioned, or I asked a question around the biggest fear that leaders are facing right now. It's interesting. I'm going to start from the bottom because I'm not going to spend too much time here because we got to get into the crux of everything. But being passed over in AI, it's interestingly enough, I thought those were going to be a little higher, and they're actually really low on the results standpoint. Starting over, can I tell you this real quick? Lean in for a second. I'm excited about to talk. I'm excited to talk about the today's topic, which is not being good enough, and then next week we're going to talk about failure. But I am super excited to talk about starting over. The starting over one for me is because I see that a lot as I coach leaders. The not being good enough and some of the failure pieces, right, are in there. But if I got to tell you, to be very honest with you, that fear of starting over is one of the biggest ones that I see in a lot of senior retail leaders. So we are going to be talking about that one, and be on the lookout for that. All right. So the fear of not being good enough, the fear of not being good enough. Um, I generated this. I c- created this I guess definition. I looked at so many definitions that are out there, and I said, okay, I wanted to talk specifically about you as well. And let me just preface a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about today. The fear of not being good enough, right? While there are external forces at play a lot of times. Listen to me, I am not a psychologist. All of these things that I'm talking about are based on my years of, in 2006, coaching founders and CEOs and executives up until today. And what I have learned is a lot of this, of course, is from an internal standpoint, things that you have to do for yourself, that you have to work on. The external pieces are always going to be there, but if you are able to conquer some of this internal stuff that we talk about today, guess what? You are going to be in good shape. No pun intended, and you'll understand why I say in good shape here in a second. So let's do this. So the definition: self-ascribed, self-ascribed assessment that your qualities or your results fall short or fall short of the required. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, I can't read today. Fall short of the required or expected standards. That's it. They fall short of the required or the expected standards, whatever those are. So, what we're going to cover today, we're going to cover the what, the how, and then what's next, right? Because I think it's important that we always talk about and identify the problem before we talk about the solutions, because the solutions, as we'll discuss here shortly, there are a myriad of solutions that you can apply to a problem, but you have to make sure that you've identified the problem first and foremost. All right. What I see in my journey a lot is these different scenarios. There are a ton more scenarios that are out there. There are a ton of scenarios that are out there. Whether you are a DM that's struggling with sort of self confidence as you're transitioning to another executive type role, you could be a CEO who is dealing with um, issues, and the board is on your back and competition is on your back. Bear in mind this idea around that you are the CEO. We're going to talk more about that too. You are the CEO. And a lot of CEOs and people are at these levels are still dealing with imposter syndrome because of the some of the pressures that they place on themselves. You are a store manager who has been passed over, one times, two times, something like that, and you are having this feeling of doubt that you feel that something is wrong with you. This is why you feel that you are actually getting passed over. So these are some of the scenarios that I see. What are some of the scenarios that you see? Right. What are some of the things that you may see inside of your own journey, or that you have seen inside of your own journey, um, that may cause people to actually feel this way as well, too? Before we move forward, I'm going to say good morning to everybody. Good morning, Cher. Good morning, Robert. Roanne. Robert, how are you doing? My good friend Ron Thurston. Good to see you there as well. Got a little bit of a spam going on. Somebody trying to promote some stuff, but that's okay. It is what it is. That's what happens when you go live. All right, so let's move into this. Let's move into let's move into the what. Okay, the what. We just talked about the idea around not being good enough as a sort of self-ascribed um, assessment of that your efforts and everything that you do is not good enough, and it doesn't meet the standards. Here's my question to you: like, what is good enough? Who defines good enough? Who sets the standards? Who sets the standards? That is one of the biggest issues that we want to make sure that we are trying to solve first and foremost, is around what is good enough. And then the last one, to be very honest with you, who sets the standards? Good morning, Monty. I see you over there, and everyone over there also on Facebook as well. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Who sets the standard? So I have a quick, you know, perspective on this. Um, so I know you said like CrossFit, Steve. Really, what does CrossFit have to do with this? So I've done CrossFit. I haven't done it in a while, but I used to do CrossFit, and I just thought they were doing too much initially in CrossFit. But one of the things that I loved about CrossFit is that you set the standard based off of your own standard, based off of who you are, right? You define yourself by yourself, and what they call a PR, a personal record, right? This is the one of the reasons why I love CrossFit, and hopefully after a while, um, hopefully after you left to a horrible leader. Um, I'm sorry, I just saw something over there in comments. one of the things that I've seen around with when it comes to CrossFit is the idea around this personal record standpoint, and I love it is because it actually helps you set a standard once again for yourself. Here's the example that I want to use. Here's the example I want to use, and this is all going to make sense. We're going to be referring to this after a while as well, even more so. They have these things called cycles where you test yourself. You set a benchmark around whatever that exercise is. And I'm going to use a back squat. You do a 1 rep max, for your squat. You work up to that 1 rep max. Let's say that 1 rep max is 225 pounds from a squat standpoint. And then over a month after the cycle is done, you're able to get to 230, right? For your 1 rep max. That is a 2% gain. The reason why you're actually able to do and increase that gain is because you've identified where your gaps are. You work on your core, you practice your squats, you start running more, you do split squats. I hate Bulgarian split squats. I just can't stand them, right? And then when you do all of the practical things based on identifying your gaps in your leadership, your gaps in your ability to move up the ladder, right? To increase your personal record. When you do all these things, guess what the result is? A month later, now you're able to do 230 pounds. That's a 2% increase. The issue that I see a lot of times when it comes to the idea of not being good enough is that we are measuring ourselves against something else. We are not measuring ourselves against ourselves. We have not set a really good foundation for who we are initially, fundamentally. And once we're able to do that, and then we have a really good self evaluation, coaching, mentorship, someone being able to speak into your life, right? And to give you a different perspective on your old ideas, right? Now you can move forward. I would not have been able to achieve a 230 pound. But I know I'm just gonna just say mine's is a little bit higher than that now right now, but it is what it is. I would not have been able to achieve. Hey Tamara, how are you doing? Good to see you. I would not have been able to achieve a higher uh, back squat if I did not do the work. So you have to understand how to set a personal record, a personal perspective of who you are first, and then you can move forward. Because if you don't, guess what? You start looking at everybody else, and we're going to talk about that here in a second too. How do you keep? How do you keep? How are you keeping track of your personal records? How are you keeping track of where you are so that you can move where it is that you actually want to be? You have to understand how to actually do this. And we're talking once again about the idea around not being good enough. Not being good enough. If you're able to do this, just make sure you have a good perspective around your personal records. All right. So let's do this. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the core issues around not being good enough. And here's the thing: I'm going to make sure that um, we're gonna move to the solution aspect of this. But I wanted to make sure that we talked about this too, because if we don't identify sort of the root cause of the issue, then we can't any solution that we try to talk about, it just doesn't matter. So the root cause, of course, when we start to think about um, the ideas around not being good enough, imposter syndrome, comparison, your past mistakes. Okay, raise your hand. Which one of these has really held you back? For me, a lot of times it has been my past mistakes. It has been the mistakes that I've made previously that have haunted me, that have really held me back, have not allowed me sometimes, and in some instances, to move forward because I feel that those mistakes are going to creep up again. And a lot of times, those are the things that actually you self sabotage yourself from moving towards what it is, what's next. Man, I got some solutions. I can't wait to get to solutions for you. Just hold on, hold tight. We got some solutions for you for this because these are the things that really help me and they help everybody that I coach as they move forward. Oh my God, I can't wait. I can't wait to move to those things. But we got to set the foundation. We got to set the foundation. So imposter syndrome, comparison, and past mistakes. Here are a couple. Here are some other ones, and these are the main ones. And I'm gonna help somebody out. Gonna help somebody out here in a second. The rejection piece. Rejection, external pressures. When we are not feeling good enough, we are afraid of rejection. We are afraid that we feel rejected because we feel we have made and provided our best efforts, and those best efforts were not met with the same sense of appreciation. These our best efforts were not met with the same sense of zeal, and what the underpinning is that when we are rejected and we feel rejected, the idea is that, do you know how hard I worked on this? Do you know how much I put into my career, and you're going to pass me over? Do you not understand the blood, sweat, and tears that I put into this? This is the underpinning. This is the guts, if you will, of rejection, right? These are the things you don't no one says, but these are the things that you are feeling when you are rejected. Do you not know how much I've been working out? Do you not understand what I have done, what I have sacrificed to do this, and you are going to reject me? And you're not going to take my presentation? You're these are the underpinnings of it. This is the stuff that pisses you off, and you don't want to talk about it, right? This rejection thing is 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 fundamental to not feeling good enough. And these are the things that we have to make sure that we're dealing with. But can I help you with something else? Can I help you with something else? Okay, I'm going to probably lose some people here on this one. Okay, the unrealistic self perception and can I just say this? Sometimes you're just not good enough. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said it. 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 And what I mean by that is that a lot of times we place ourselves into situations where we just don't have the requisite skills, and then rejection happens. But guess what? We have a unrealistic self-perception of who we are, and then we don't get the opportunity, and then we get pissed off about that. Can I tell you? Can I tell you about the idea around that one when I started CrossFit, I had a lot of I had a lot of failures when I tried to actually I remember doing my first squat. Man, it was hard. It was so hard. And I remember I wanted to get it so bad that I actually tried to, I forced it. And I guess what, I pulled my back. I pulled my back. I was trying so hard. I just wasn't good enough. I just wasn't good enough. I got passed over for an opportunity as a leader, um, and I was man I felt that I could lead anybody, and I got passed over. I wasn't good enough at that point in time in my life, in my career. I didn't do the work. I didn't have a someone to come into my life at that point in time to tell me that, hey, we need to work on a couple of things. We need to work on a couple of things. And when you're able to actually do that, guess what? Now you start to put the work in, and you start to become good enough, right? You start to have this sense of self. And we're going to be talking about that here in a second. But what happens is that the rejection also becomes this sense of self protection for ourselves. Is that we would can sit in that rejection. This is going, come on now. Can I just help you with this? A lot of times we sit in the rejection, and we sit in the ideas of not being good enough. And because we don't want to put the work in, because if we put the work in and we get rejected again, guess what? Now, now I told you so happens. That is all what happens to ourselves. That is what happens to ourselves. Or, I'm going to talk about this here in a second, or we think everybody's looking at us from a career standpoint. Well, Steve got rejected once. He didn't get that opportunity. Well, here he goes again. He's going up again. Oh my gosh, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. He's gonna get rejected again. Guess what? I didn't get rejected. I got the opportunity because I put the work in. Okay. I we got to move on to how do I help you with this? We're gonna reverse this. Let's reverse this. I need to wet my whistle for a second because I got some stuff for you guys. Oh gosh, I got some stuff for you right now. So let's reverse everything that we just spoke about, right? We talked about rejection, we talked about imposter syndrome, comparison, past mistakes, unrealistic self perceptions, all these different things. Let me help you with some things. Okay. So how do we reverse? What's the reverse of all those things that we spoke about? Self belief, awareness, audacity to challenge yourself, audacity to challenge yourself. When I was writing this, I thought about I think it was Barack Obama's book Audacity to Believe, something like that. And I gravitated to that word around audacity because when you want to reverse something, you have to have the audacity to challenge where you were to where it is that you want to go, right? There has to be this gravitas of who you are, that you are. It is not an unrealistic perspective. It is an honest perspective because you are equipped with yourself, with understanding who you are so that you can move forward. I was talking to someone the other day. We were doing some onboarding. We were talking about interviews, and when there is a difference, let's say your name is Jim, right? There is a difference between interview Jim and Jim that's interviewing. Okay, understand that. Jim that's interviewing is, oh my gosh, I need this role, and I'm almost kind of willing to do what it takes to kind of get this role, and that comes out in the overall interview. Now, interview Jim, that's interview Jim. Jim that's interviewing, he is interviewing out of who he is, out of his understanding of who he is and his opportunity to and what he's going to actually be able to bring to the role. They're the same person, but they're two completely different perspectives on how they see themselves. Do you understand that? Right? The audacity to be able to be Jim and interview out of the gravitas of who you are, of the surety of who you are, comes across completely different than Jim than interview Jim. And it's the same way as we start to think about ourselves. We have to think about ourselves in a completely different perspective. We can't be the one that's actually, I got it. I'm in interview mode. can can I tell you, all those people? I'm just going. I know some people don't like me after this. Can I tell you, the people who are? I can tell everybody that's in interview mode. Every time I interview with somebody, I can tell when you were in interview mode. I can tell when you did a crash course and you got all the preparation. And I'm not knocking that. Please understand, I am not knocking that, right? But what you need to understand is that the one who interviews with more surety out of understanding who they are and answer those questions differently, gosh, those are the ones that actually will get the opportunities. You need some help with that. Okay. So what do you do? What do you do? How do you understand and move forward and develop this audacity to change and this perspective of self-awareness? So we'll talk about that here in a second as well. I love this quote by Carolyn Wagner, and it says, who you are is who you are. If you can't be who you are where you are, then you change. Excuse me. If you can't be who you are where you are, change where you are, not who you are. I love that. I love that. I love that. But here's what the tendency is that when we start to think about this this quote, is that we start to automatically think about changing opportunities, right? Changing companies. And before you even think about that changing companies, you have to change yourself. You have to change your mentality, right? You have mismanaged expectations a lot of times on who we are, and when we're able to kind of bring those expectations down, and I'm not saying that you don't have to think big, but I'm saying down into the context of understanding who you are once again, so that you can move where it is that you want to be. The mentality has to change first and foremost. It has to change first and foremost. I did a it's on my YouTube channel. It's called New Leader, New Market, and we talk a lot about the idea of, like, you, of course, being a new leader moving into a new market. And then when you do that, there's a lot of things that actually have to change. Your mentality has to change. Your perspective of who you are and what you're going to be bringing to the table with that team has to change. It just does. It just does. Right? I had this old saying of how you leave something is how you start it. Whenever I had a leader who was getting promoted, one of the things that we often talked about was, like, how are you going to leave your market? How are you going to leave your market? How are you going to leave your team? How are you going to equip them? Right? Because when you move, because right when you move to another opportunity, listen to me, man. You're not thinking, you got too much stuff that you got to do. So you have to prepare your team accordingly. So how are you going to leave your team? Right? What are you going to how many issues can you get resolved within yourself and your own leadership? Because when you move to that new opportunity, right, a lot of those things, if they're not resolved, they will follow you. It is the same thing when you start talking about being good enough, right? And I opened this thing talking about the CEO. Listen to me, he's the CEO of the company, and he still doesn't feel good enough. He has the supreme role of the company, and he or she, they don't feel good enough, right? So we have to make sure that we have a better understanding of what that looks like as well. All right. So here's the how. Here's the how. And I hope you're ready for this one. I hope you're ready for this one, because we're gonna be we're closing things out here, with the how. Okay, the how, and I'm going to talk about all of these that you see here, and hold on tight, hold on tight. You see the list here. No one cares. Ground identity, your identity. Don't give away your power and self awareness. We're going to talk about these real quick. I got time. Okay, this is going to help you out right now. The issue a lot of times around not being good enough is because we care too much about what other people think. We just do. We just do. We just do. Can I help you with this? No one cares. No one cares. So people and leaders are so self-absorbed, and I don't mean that in a negative context, right? 'Cause a lot of times you have to be, because you're running a 1.5 billion-dollar market. You have to be some measure of self-absorbed to be able to move forward, right? But can I be honest with you? The majority of people, as you are moving forward, they don't really care. They don't really care about you, right? And I love this quote here. It says, "No one cares what you do," and that's a good thing. That is a good thing. You have to get into your mind that, like, people have other stuff they got to do. People have families. People are trying to develop themselves. People are trying to do other things. And if they have the time to really put their cares and uh, attention on you, I sort of feel sorry for that, right? So I have empathy for the individuals who are focused so much on other people and not themselves. And so by having that measure of empathy, I think I've been able to move a lot faster through the, oh my gosh, people are looking at me. People are looking at me, and oh my gosh, I can't. I got to stop. Listen to me. I am able to move quickly to that idea of no one cares, Steve. Stay in your lane. Keep rocking your stuff out. But let me tell you this before I move on to the next point. Here's when people start to care. Oh, this is going to help some people out. This is when people start to care. Is when your influence starts to move into their lane. Oh, when you are a DM or a regional or a senior vice president, and you are just steady plodding along, right? Let's go back to that gym analogy. Let's go back to the CrossFit analogy, right? Because typically in a lot of CrossFit gyms, right? There is a leaderboard on different workouts that you will have, and a lot of times when you're struggling to get 225 pounds up, no one really cares. But when you start getting that 230 up, 250, 275, and you got Kevin who is at 295, and then you're at 275, Kevin starts to pay a little more attention to you. Kevin starts to I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. They start to want to work out with you. This is how the world works. And it happens in business too. They Kevin he wants to work out with you because he wants to know what you're doing. He wants to know what you're doing. And that's okay, right? Because that means your influence is starting to grow, right? I've had it happen in business, in retail, right? Markets are crushing. Markets are crushing. Man, I get that arbitrary phone call from someone I don't even know who you are, right? You know, Shannon. Hey, Steve, how you doing? I'm over here in California. Hey, I just see you're doing some amazing things. Here's why, because Shannon was the top dog. Now Steve's just plodding along and just rocking and rolling, right? I say all of this to say is that when you are defining yourself by yourself, you don't have to worry about anybody else. You just keep rocking and doing what you're doing, and those opportunities will start to show. The gains will start to happen, and others will start to notice as well. Okay, all right. So, don't give your power away. Don't give your power away. Don't give your power away. Um, develop a strong EQ. Listen to me. These next two could be a whole podcast episode. And let me know if there's something that you want to see. These could be a whole nother podcast episode as well. Mindful listening when it comes to developing your emotional intelligence is understanding this is this is part of our approachability framework, right? Approachability framework is a SMILE framework, and it deals with self-awareness, mindful listening, inspires trust, lead by example, and effective empathy. The mindful listening one is one of the is has to be one of the ones that I want to always emphasize the most when I'm working with someone. It's because they have to have a really good understanding of where you stand with other people. And here's why do you want to have a good understanding of where you stand with other people? Because those relationships will impact who you are and what you do and how you carry yourself, right? And um and how you see yourself. A lot of times we measure our success as leaders by the level of the relationships that we have and by the results that we're able to generate. And if you have a healthy understanding of what that relationship balance looks like, understanding if you have a store over here that's not doing well, if you have a store over here that's crushing, and what's your relationship like with that leader, right? Having a healthy understanding, a mindfulness of understanding where you stand with other people will help ground you in an understanding of who you are, right? And it's not that you're defining yourself by that. It is the fact that you know how to throttle who you are. And here's the thing. Those who don't understand that idea around throttling your leadership, just wait for our book that comes out, The Approachable Retail Leader. We are going to be talking in the context of around you have to learn and understand how to throttle your leadership. You have to understand how to throttle yourself, your self-awareness, your empathy, right? You have to understand how to do that. What we see is that most leaders are always at 5 or 7 or 10 across the board in who they are. And then they expect everybody to meet them at that level. You can't. This is why and then what happens is you sabotage who you are is because they're not able to meet that expectation, or you're not able to meet that expectation because you haven't done the necessarily throttling to connect with somebody to take the feedback, which is inspires trust, and then actually move that forward. So you set yourself up for failure. Guess what? Now I'm not good enough. Now I'm not good enough. Well, if you had a understanding of who you are, right? Now you can understand what you need to throttle back and forth. Oh, like I said, this could be a whole nother one for you. And I let me know if this is making sense to all of you as well. Um, Self awareness. I, I, the ideas around the whys. And my good friend Matt Mueller, I took him through the 5 why exercises around like his business and certain things, and um, I love the 5 whys. I love understanding why you do something. Here's the thing: everybody's learned and read the book "Start with Why" by Simon Sinek, and a lot of people will say, start with why, and I know we hear it all the time, and here's why I always talk about it is because no one does it. No one does it. Everybody wants to get right to the right. They want to get right to the solution, right? They want to get right to the solution, and you haven't clearly defined the problem yet. And you do that by understanding the whys. Can I give you a quick example? Like, so let's just say the answer to a problem is 10. I don't even know what the question is, but the answer is 10. There are so many ways to get to 10. Right? 2 plus 8, 2 times 5, right? 6 plus 4, 1 plus 9, right? There are so many ways to get to 10, but you haven't defined the problem first, right? Why do I need to get to 10? What does 10 represent? And if you don't do that, you are creating a solution. You're creating to a solution that you haven't clearly defined a problem. And guess what? Now the second piece around self-awareness is your response. You start to respond out of the solutions that you're generating, right? Come on, stick with me. That you have generated, you're generating these solutions, and these solutions don't work. And you once again you self-sabotage because the solutions don't work, and you don't feel good enough because why is no one buying into, you know 6 plus 11? Okay, did you get the math there? Did you get the math there? 6 plus 11 is 6 plus 5 is 11, right? 6 plus 5 is 11. That's why, right? Because 10 is the answer, but you are so fixated on trying to find a solution to something that you haven't clearly defined. Man, oh man. Okay, I got to move to the next thing. I got to move to the next thing. Is this making sense? Let me know if this is resonating with you, because I really want to help you move past a lot of these things that you are dealing with, because when you are um, when you are trying to move past this perspective around um, not being good enough, there's a massive internal battle that takes place, and that battle will try to prevent you from actually moving forward, and you can't allow that battle to win, that internal battle. All right, so let's there we go. I am using Canva, if you can't tell. Get the little blue dot there. So what's next? Can I just tell you this? You are good enough. You are good enough, right? You define good enough. You set your standards. You set your standards. Everything that we spoke about, the ideas, um, around, the perspective around switching towards like no one cares. Stay in your lane. Focus in on your thing, right? Clearly define the truth around who you are, right? Don't give away your power. Develop the ideas around emotional intelligence, understanding where you stand with people, and be having a realistic perspective of what you want to see happen. Because a lot of times we move into the idea of around what not good enough is because we have an unrealistic expectation and perspective of who we are, and when that is not met, we sit in the not good enough. We sit in it, and you need someone to help you do that, right? You have to define yourself by yourself. What's your PR? What does that mean? Right? One of the things that I loved about CrossFit was that how do you the ideas around um getting you 1% better, 1% better, right? You can, the reason why a lot of people stay where they are is because they want, um, my brother Stan wrote this poem like years ago, and he was talking about the idea around change. And, he was always talking about how people want to microwave stuff, and they want the cliff notes. And it was such a great poem. Hopefully one day I can find it. Hopefully he still has it. I want to read it probably on air one day. It was really good. This was, I mean, guys, I was a teenager. Maybe I know he keeps all of his stuff, but it really just spoke about how everybody just wants things extremely fast. And, a lot of times those things don't last. So you as a leader, you have to figure out how to get 1% better. The only way that you're actually going to be able to do that, the only way I was able to go from 225 to, over, I think I maxed out at like, I think my back squat maxed out at like 425 or something like that. Right. My one rep max. I cannot do that now. I cannot do that now. I wish I could. Only way I was able to do that was to get 1% better every single day. Only way I was able to do that was to get clarity on understanding who I am, who I was, what my limitations are, getting the coach, getting somebody to help me understand my perspective, getting someone to help me understand what I needed to do. I needed to eat better. I needed to move forward as a leader, right? When I got passed over, right? Steve, your communication, right? How do you make sure you're communicative effectively? How do you communicate more as an executive? How do you strategize? How do you communicate that strategy and then still understand the tactical aspects of who you are? How do you lead a bigger team, right? How do you lead from a distance? A lot of times, how do you lead without authority? Right? You need clarity on all of that, right? You need to better understand who you are so that you can move where it is that you want to be to your best next. If you have a team that's not effective, right? There's probably some commonality around some of the things that may be missing in that team, right? We can help you with this. I'm here. I want to talk to you. Let's talk about all of these different things that may be holding you back. Let's talk a little bit about the fear. Let's talk about what's holding your team back from moving forward, right? You have a brand new team. This is the make a move season. Everybody's team is, a lot of people's teams are actually shifting now. How do you do that, right? What do you need to do next? How do you get, your team on the same page? How do you get yourself on the same page? You just got promoted, right? You got promoted and you think that's it. I'm telling you right now, it's not. That is just the tip of the iceberg that you got promoted. So let's go ahead and talk. For those of you, there's a QR code that's on the screen, but also in the comments there's opportunity for you to set up a clarity call and then also connect with the campus as well too. I really want to see you on campus for this coming Saturday. We are actually going to be doing once again some leadership value pieces in our mastermind, and that is absolutely free. So make sure you go ahead and register for that. Next week we are going to be talking about failure. We're going to be talking about. This is a series. This is a series. I love doing series actually because they just, one, they make my life easier because I can talk about similar things, but of course bring them down into, how is it relevant to you. So we're going to be talking about failure next week because it was a number two on our poll. For failure was number two, and then after that we're going to be talking about the fear of being passed over the week after that. So I'm looking forward to having you all here next week. Let me know in the comments that this resonated with you. What was some of your takeaways? What's something that we can think about doing differently? Some of the things that you can think about doing differently as a leader so that you can continue to move forward to your best next. I appreciate you being here. Our Win Your Weeks have been really popular. It took a couple of weeks off, and now I'm back, and I'm really stoked about it because we have a lot of really great content that and resources that is going to help you move forward into your best next. So thank you for being here. Have a great rest of your week. Also, make sure, and I want to make sure. Wrong way. Make sure that you check out Brian's new book tomorrow and the podcast episode that drops tomorrow as well. All right. Once again, thank you for being here. Have a great day and God bless.